This is unbelievable, and I'll leave a link below for the video so you can watch it. Toilets spew invisible aerosol plumes with every flush, and there's a proof here captured by lasers. Spread pathogens from human waste, expose people in restrooms to contagious diseases, of course. You can imagine, according to the conversation, every time you flush a toilet, it releases plumes of tiny water droplets into the air around you. These droplets, called aerosol plumes, can spread pathogens from human waste and expose people in public restrooms to contagious diseases. Scientific understanding of the spread of aerosol plumes and public awareness of their existence has been hampered by the fact that they are normally invisible. My colleague Aaron True, Carl Linden, Mark Hernandez, Lars Larson, and Anna Pauls and I were able to use high-power lasers to illuminate these plumes, enabling us to imagine and measure the location and motion of spreading aerosol plumes from flushing commercial toilets in vivid detail. Toilets are designed to efficiently empty the contents inside the bowl through a downward motion into the drain pipe. In the flush cycle, water comes into forceful contact with the contents inside the bowl and creates a fine spray of particles suspended in the air. Now, if you look closely, the toilet lid is opened, so notice that the plume, of course, would be a lot less if you close the lid before flushing. But anyway, going back to this, they said we found that a typical commercial toilet generates a strong upward jet of air with velocities exceeding 6.6 feet per second, that's 2 meters per second, rapidly carrying these particles up to 5 feet, that's 1.5 meters above the bowl, within 8 seconds of the start of the flush. To visualize these plumes, we set up a typical lidless commercial toilet with a flushometer-style valve found throughout North America and in our lab. Flushometers valves use pressure instead of gravity to direct water into the bowl. We used special optics to create a thin vertical sheet of laser light that illuminated the region from the top of the bowl to the ceiling. After flushing the toilet with a remote electrical trigger, the aerosol particles scattered enough laser light to become visible, allowing us to use cameras to image the plume of particles. Even though we expected to see these particles, we were still surprised by the strength of the jet ejecting the particles from the bowl. A related study using a computational model of the idealized toilet to predict the formation of aerosol plumes with an upward transport of particles at speeds above the bowl approached 3.3 feet per second, that's a meter per second, which is about half of what we observed with a real toilet. Now, why lasers? Scientists have known for decades that flushing toilets can release aerosol particles into the air. However, experimental studies have largely relied on devices that sample the air at fixed locations to determine the number and size of particles toilets produce. While these earlier approaches can confirm the presence of aerosols, they provide little information about the physics of the plumes, what they look like, how they spread, and how fast they move. This information is critical to develop strategies to mitigate the formation of aerosol plumes and reduce their capacity to transmit disease. As an engineering professor whose research focuses on interactions between fluid physics and ecology or biological processes, my laboratory specializes in using lasers to determine how various things are transported by complex fluid flows. In many cases, these things are invisible until we illuminate them with lasers. An advantage of using laser light to measure fluid flows is that unlike a physical probe, light does not alter or disrupt the very thing that you're trying to measure. Furthermore, using lasers to make invisible things visible helps people, as visual creatures, better understand complexities in the fluid environment they live in. Aerosols and disease. Aerosol particles containing pathogens are important human disease vectors. Smaller particles that remain suspended in air for a period of time could expose people to respiratory diseases like influenza and COVID-19 through inhalation. Larger particles that settle quickly on surfaces can spread intestinal diseases like norovirus through contact with the hands and mouth. Toilet bowl water contaminated by feces can have pathogen concentrations that persist for after dozens of flushes, but it is still an open question as to whether toilet aerosol plumes present a transmission risk. While we were able to visually and quantitatively describe how aerosol plumes move and disperse, our work does not directly address how toilet plumes transmit disease, and this remains an ongoing aspect of research. Limiting toilet plume spread. Our experimental methodology provides a foundation for future work to test a range of strategies to minimize the risk of exposure to diseases from flushing toilets. This could include assessing changes to aerosol plumes emanating from new toilet bowl designs or flush valves that change the duration or intensity of the flush cycle. Meanwhile, there are ways to reduce human exposure to toilet plumes. An obvious strategy is to close the lid prior to flushing. However, this does not completely eliminate aerosol plumes, and many toilets in public, commercial, and healthcare settings do not have lids. Ventilation or UV disinfection systems could also mitigate exposure to aerosol plumes in the bathroom. And this is by The Conversation by John Grimaldi, Professor of Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering, University of Colorado Boulder, on The Conversation Creative Commons. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.